They were architects of stone, unlike any other. Their homes were carved directly into cliffs and valleys. Their inscriptions and engineering defied the desert itself. And yet, they vanished. Generations forgot their name. Their story was swallowed by sand and silence. To the modern mind, they are almost myth. A civilization lost to time, whispers of a forgotten world. But here's the mystery. How did a book written over 1,400 years ago describe their sudden disappearance? Long before satellites and explorers. Long before archaeologists uncovered traces of their rock-carved mastery. We return with another eye-opening chapter, uncovering the lost world of the people of Thamud, the valley carvers whose civilization still speaks through stone. Subscribe and stay with us, because this story might change the way you see history. In the heart of Arabia's rugged valleys, the people of Thamud thrived. They didn't just build, they carved entire homes into cliffs, shaping walls, doorways, and chambers from solid rock. Their villages were masterpieces, stone tombs, cisterns, and water channels, designed to sustain life in the harsh desert. Inscriptions etched into cliffs told stories of daily life, trade, and culture, a silent testament to their ingenuity. Every valley echoed with the precision of their work. Every stone reflected generations of craftsmanship. They were masters of their environment, bending rock to their will, creating settlements that balanced beauty, function, and survival. Daily life was vibrant. Markets, artisans, livestock, and families thriving in harmony with the harsh landscape. For a time, the people of Thamud stood as a shining example of skill, resilience, and human ambition, a civilization unmatched in their era. Even the most brilliant civilizations cast long shadows. The people of Thamud grew proud of their skill, their homes, and their towering rock structures. Their mastery of stone and the desert gave them confidence, and with confidence came arrogance. They believed they could bend the land and its limits to their will. Water channels were overused. Valleys once carefully balanced for survival were strained. Resources were exploited recklessly, with little regard for the fragile desert ecosystem. They ignored warnings from within their own communities, dismissing voices that called for restraint or fairness. Disputes grew over land, power, and access to resources, leaving cracks in the fabric of their society. Some acted cruelly toward the vulnerable, harming those who challenged their dominance or stood in the way of their ambitions. Pride and hubris became the rule, not the exception. In chasing prestige, wealth, and unchallenged authority, they eroded the very foundations that had made their civilization thrive. Every triumph became a reminder of their arrogance, every carved stone a monument to pride. Unseen at the time, these choices were setting the stage for a sudden catastrophe that would erase their civilization almost overnight, leaving only the silent cliffs to tell their story. Amid their pride, a voice rose in the valleys, a call for humility and balance. A man from among them warned that no civilization stands forever, that strength without gratitude turns to ruin. He urged them to honor what they had been given, the water, the land, the stone that sheltered them. But his words fell on deaf ears. They mocked him, calling him a doomsayer, a relic clinging to superstition. "We are the masters of the cliffs," they said. "Even the mountains bend to our will." Yet the desert began to whisper a different truth. The skies turned still. Wells ran lower than memory could recall. Animals grew restless. Tremors rattled the ground beneath their carved homes. What was once the sound of chisels shaping stone became the uneasy silence of a land holding its breath. Some began to flee, frightened by what they could not explain. Others stood proud, believing their skill could defy fate itself. But warnings, once ignored, do not vanish, they wait. And soon, the valleys would answer with a silence that would outlast the people who refused to listen. And then, the warning came true. The valleys that once echoed with chisels and laughter fell silent. The air thickened, heavy with stillness, before the earth began to shake. It started as a low rumble beneath their feet, a sound that grew into a roar. The cliffs trembled as if the mountains themselves were alive, rebelling against the very people who had carved their pride into them. Homes cracked open, great stones split apart. Dust and rock filled the air like a storm of ash. Families ran through narrow corridors, their cries swallowed by the thunder of collapsing walls. The streams that once carried life turned to mud and silence. The air, once filled with song and trade, now carried only the echo of fear. Those who had mocked the warning now found their voices lost to the wind. The mighty settlements, the carved chambers, the tombs, the water channels, all crumbled under the weight of nature's final verdict. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The earth grew still again. Only silence remained, vast, heavy, eternal. Where once stood the marvel of Thamud, now there was only dust, wind, and the memory of a civilization that thought itself unshakable. When the dust settled and silence claimed the valley, only the wind remained, whispering through hollowed cliffs that once sang with life. Centuries later, travelers crossing the Arabian desert spoke of strange carvings half buried in sand, of facades that looked like frozen cities in stone. Some said the wind itself carried voices, faint echoes of a people who defied the desert and paid the price. Folklore painted Thamud as masters of rock and ruin, a civilization so skilled they could shape mountains, and so proud they believed nothing could bring them down. Their legend became a warning that power built on pride is as fragile as sand in a storm. Even now, locals speak of the Valley of Ghosts, where shadows stretch long at dusk and the stones seem alive, silent storytellers of a people lost to time. But silence never lasts forever. Centuries later, explorers and scientists began to listen, and the cliffs of Thamud began to speak once more. Centuries after the valleys fell silent, the story of Thamud comes alive through stone, scholarship, and modern science. In the 19th century, Charles Doughty, a British explorer and author of Travels in Arabia Deserta, ventured into the harsh Arabian wilderness. He meticulously documented the rock-carved homes, tombs, and inscriptions, providing the first detailed Western record of the region and its mysterious people. Decades later, St. John Philby, the British Arabist, explorer, and advisor to the early Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, carried the story further. His surveys across northern Arabia mapped forgotten valleys, photographed Thamudic inscriptions, and recorded cliff dwellings, irrigation systems, and cisterns. Today, the Saudi Commission for Tourism and National Heritage continues their legacy. They've uncovered workshops, animal carvings, pottery shards, and tool remains, traces of the daily life that once pulsed through the valley. Evidence points to abrupt abandonment, environmental collapse, and signs of seismic upheaval, the marks of a civilization that vanished almost overnight. Under the desert sun, the same cliffs still shimmer, carved with precision that humbles modern eyes. Researchers continue decoding the Thamudic script, revealing fragments of trade, art, and faith. Conservation teams preserve every carving, ensuring the stones keep speaking for centuries to come. Through explorers, scholars, and modern science, the people of Thamud rise once more from cliffs and sand, a civilization whose warning still echoes in stone. For centuries, the story of Thamud stood between scripture and myth. The Quran described them as a people who carved homes into mountains, feeling secure within them. It spoke of their prophet Saleh, a man sent to warn them, and of a miraculous she-camel, a divine sign they chose to defy. Then came the reckoning. The thunderbolt seized those who had wronged, and they lay lifeless in their homes. Surah Al-Araf 778, Surah Hud 1167. For generations, these words seemed like parable, until explorers stepped into the same valleys, finding homes literally carved in stone, cisterns and channels carved through desert rock, and settlements abandoned in silence. Exactly as the Quran described, their mastery was real, and so was their fall. Even Assyrian inscriptions spoke of the Thamudi, and Greek and Roman geographers mentioned the Thamudii, traces of a people whose name refused to vanish. And now, through modern excavations and satellite imaging, science confirms what Scripture declared over 14 centuries ago. Whether you see it as coincidence or revelation, the line between faith and fact has never been thinner. And a question still lingers. How could such knowledge endure, perfectly preserved, for over 1,400 years? From scripture to stone, the story of Thamud stands complete, a civilization that rose from the desert, defied every warning, and was lost in silence. Yet their message endures, carved not only in rock, but in revelation itself. Because sometimes, the past doesn't just whisper through ruins, it speaks through time. If this story made you rethink what lies beneath the sands, subscribe and stay, because the next story might change the way you see history.